Welcome to the last days of 2020 with mtk-on-the-mic. Yes. I'm mtk on the mic, running a little late today as the cricket in Australia. I've been in Melbourne all night. Isn't that what we do now? We are quarantined, but we use this amazing thing that we've invented here and that we take for granted, unbelievably. We take it for granted and we run it down the internet, right? And I spend 3 nights here pretending it's daytime and I'm in Melbourne, Australia for 8 hours with ease. But it is not Melbourne, Australia. It is, in fact, instead the 27th of December. 27, folks, the 27th of December. 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. Days, 5 days left in the year 2020. And it is 8:22 in the morning in California. Love you, California. NorCal. My heart up there on a hill in San Francisco. Keep it quiet, though. Don't let anybody write a song about it or anything. It is 11:20 in New York. It is 4:20 in the UK on UTC, and that line, that invisible line of time, what an idiotic concept. And in Australia, let's see, what would that make it in Australia right now? Middle of the night, they're asleep. Let's talk about it. Ring out the old, ring in the new, ring happy bells across the snow. The year is going, let it go. Ring out the false, ring in the true. Ring out the grief that saps the mind. For those that here we see no more, ring out the feud of rich and poor. Ring in redress to all mankind. Tennyson, as per Dad. And today's program falls on the heels of the hottest show we ever had, yesterday's program, which, because I read Dave Barry aloud and stuck Dave Barry's name into the tags, there's like 250 people who've read. It's a 44-minute reading of Dave Barry's end-of-year review. MTK, the long form. I am only just trying to use the voice for non-commercial, non-profit purposes, right? My whole life. When I go to sign on to something, that's why it's very important to me that something be ethical, be righteous, be good, be dharma. From the dharma standpoint, it's got to have certain aspects here. And I've given my energy to a lot of folks. Francesca, the New School in New York, Genentech. The big companies I worked for, there's a few. I named the ones that at least we got along that much. But sooner or later, the American way is going to bump into my ethics and rules and, at that point I have to step aside, let y'all go your own way. Now, 20 years of doing that has got me on the side watching you go in other directions. These bifurcations take you off to idiotic places. You stumble back. Sometimes it takes you off in a direction that's completely false. And that's what I feel we're in now, the fantasy world you've created that I call, and I have called for some time now, a parallel history. I've not been writing much. I've been doing a lot of other things and caring for my father in his waning years, so my production is way down. But I did a series of these that were about parallel history, right? And you can look that up on the site, along with the human population explosion conversation we were talking about, the HPE. These two are pillars, if you will, of a thesis that relates to how we have to change our minds and hearts and souls. And it's, slow building in my chest and in my body until I'm dead. Hopefully I get it out. It'd be nice. Could use help on that, if I'm honest. But it's very difficult to find people to comprehend even the tiniest bit of what I'm saying. That said, the long form stuff, reading Dave Barry's piece yesterday was for me a comfort. I did it cold without having read it before, by the way. That's why there's so many errors throughout it. I don't normally do that. That's not something I feel very good about. But here at the end of 2020, I was really with all those folks on Twitter who were like, please, can we not do the year in review bullshit? Like, it's just too much this year. And I was thinking that as I was letting year in review stuff just go by me, I just couldn't bear it. Not the interpretation of people and the way they're going to choose to write about it, not the actual stuff itself, not what they consider important. Oh my God, that's the biggest crisis for an immigrant like myself. But anyway, along comes Dave Barry doing his annual, and what a pleasure. What a great comic mind with excellent research, fine points, who satirizes in a very American way quite beautifully my whole life. I've been reading him since college, and I'm a big fan of Dave Barry's. So I'm pleased that that's happening. And it did give me an opportunity to kind of review the year without reviewing the year. Because as he points out, who wants to review this year? We just want to flush it and move on, right? In 1998, I did an installation in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, in a warehouse that was empty before we occupied it, we being the artists who first occupied it. And that installation was titled, "There's No Such Thing as the 21st Century." And I did that in Brooklyn, in Greenpoint, by the waterfront. So you're looking at the skyline of Manhattan when you're experiencing this installation, which took about 3 days. It was about 72-hour, semi-performative. I've also had paint stuff going on in there. There was writing. I wrote a novel in 3 days, which you can read online. I put it up into the archive site. Wow, I can't believe I did that. For years, I was like, I should publish that, but yeah, it's something I wrote when I was 33, 33? 30? I was we call that the Jesus year, don't we? The Jesus year was 2000 for me. And that happened in 98, that installation and performance, year-long installation and performance in 1998, called "There Is No Such Thing as the 21st Century." And I was very isolated in the execution of this. I would even say I was assaulted, quite frankly, by pseudo-intellects and people who had just been trained by the Western system of mind and the American system. It was annoyingly and quite privately difficult to engage in that. And then all of it became irrelevant because of that fateful Tuesday morning when we couldn't vote because 2 planes flew into the World Trade Centers. And so I haven't really fully still even embraced the idea that the 21st century exists, much less that I'm in it with you. Which is central to several of the things I'm producing, right? My calendar could be totally different and equally valid. I can choose from many around the world. in fact. But then, so then in 2012, I think, I'd already gotten to this point. This is supposed to be a sign, at a protest, right? Rebootthecentury.com. Or how about, we want to party like it's 1999. I love their motto. For reals, yo. So, because I'm an artist and I separate myself, and this has cost me a lot. I've been broke a lot this century. Let's be real about that, shall we? It's not because I couldn't have made money. It's because I elect not to compromise. And so I put that on me, not anyone else. And in my composition of what's going on, we are now 20, we will soon here in 5 days be 20 years deep in an exercise. Is it 21, right? Because 0 counts. That's the other thing. You're so dumb with your base 10 nonsense that you can't even figure out when things start, right? But I have in my possession massive volumes of material that I have been collecting during these 30, 40 years, which is why the essence of my work is collage, right? I'm slowly composing from this material. Hopefully the half dozen, dozens of 30 maybe pieces that are going to, I think, express the ultimate expression here. Among them, that this whole 21st century has been the manufacture of a group of white Americans who have invaded every sector of society in a way that has been false. It's a false narrative. So we need to deal with that honestly. But when you start talking like that, it sounds quite extreme, and these are advanced philosophical concepts. So one has to be smarter than me. That's what you got to do. You got to be way smarter than me, I would say. And as there's only 5 days left, I'm just winging it now. I'm not even coming into this with the news open or Twitter open anymore. I think that's not cool, dude. I think working to understand the system, if you will, so that I could communicate with the system has taken away just so much of who I am. And to me, that is why it's so easy for me to empathize and sympathize with those oppressed classes here in the United States, and throw my energy toward what they're saying, because it's farcical. It's farcical, the racism. The racism is, it's not even, it's the whole thing. Recently, I wrote, on a piece of paper in my journal or something, the USA is 100% bullshit. And I was like, whoa, that's just too much for me to handle right now. And then I started going, then I had caveats, The USA is mostly bullshit. Oh, that's softer, But in the same idea that we were advancing yesterday, a lot of what I'm doing is proceeding from the null hypothesis. So the notion here is you're testing out something that's very extreme so you can show that it's not. And the USA is total bullshit. As you climb through it, it becomes narrower and narrower until you're left with who it is, what it says it is for. Okay? So who you're left with, that it truly is what it says it is. Okay, those people for whom that's true is like a tiny percentage of the population, and they own most of everything. So the machine that the Europeans came over here and made, that we call USA, to allow them the complete and total domination of the world, ultimately, because the USA does have the most powerful economy, the most powerful military, the stupidest people, so you can easily just convince them to go commit illegal wars or do things as necessary for these extremely wealthy and powerful folk, right? Under a guise of freedom and democracy. It is a massive thing to try to convey to people. Césaire, right? Europe is indefensible, he says in 1950, right? So whoa, what's happening between 50 and 68 freaks them out big time. And so they put a freeze on things from 68 to now. And we're enduring still that ice age, as Dr. Cornel West described it to me in private. And of these reactionary elites. And I've witnessed it in front of my face and tried to tell people, hey, look, this family just moved down here from Connecticut, bought stuff, and started claiming to be Texans, and then took over the State House. And they did. Oh, then I'm hearing they're doing it in Florida too. They got two of their sons as governors in two of these states, and now the guy's going to be president. It's and you dig deeper into the background of that family. I mean, that's one we really need to talk about that in bigger terms, without people being afraid of being persecuted and assassinated for revealing truths about the Bush family. Prescott, down. We have to be honest about the OSS. We have to be honest about the birth of the CIA. We have to be honest about the illegal and covert wars that we've conducted all over the globe as Americans. Come on. The fantasy that I describe here has grown now to the state where it's taken for truth so much that we advance new ideas on it. Comics write jokes based on it existing. Rick and Morty's edgy because, well, he's snapping some of it, but still it has to ride on it, doesn't it? James Baldwin in those notes, I loved those notes when he was interviewed in Paris. At the very end of his trip, he's coming back from being in Europe and finally being treated like a man. And he's headed back to New York, but this is as free as he is in his life. You know, he's won the National Book Award, and he's touring Europe as an intellectual after being treated as an African-American black man, a Negro, a nigger in America for so long. And he states in that interview something that I put into a short story of mine. I think it's called, I gave this title to many things, The Outsider Inside. It's on the site as well. But I dropped that quote in. I have a character reading it on the toilet. And it's this quote where he says, the white reader doesn't want to get too close. The white reader doesn't want to get too close.